this is a big ending for the Famicom. This is the final Enix game on the system. Enix only published 7 Famicom games, and that would normally put them in my list of minor Famicom publishers, but 4 of those games are Dragon Quest, and one of the remaining ones is Portopia Renzoku Satsujin Jiken. Enix sold more Famicom games than anyone except Nintendo, and they created system-defining genres twice. That's a pretty good record. And to close out the system, Enix wound up going full circle. To understand Just Breed, we have to jump back in time to 1982. Enix, of course, was only publishing computer games at the time, and they held a contest for submissions of video games by hobbyist programmers. This competition would prove to be a pivotal moment in the history of the Japanese game industry. Many of the people who entered the competition and placed well would become key figures in video games. The competition brought all of these people together. Enix's first Famicom release, Door Door, came out of this contest. The winner of the competition was Morita Kazuo with his game Morita no Battlefield. It was a simplified war game featuring abstract sides that had identical units. It wound up being a pretty big influence on a lot of Japanese military strategy games in the 80s. But that kind of strategy game wasn't Morita's forte. Instead, he shifted his focus to shogi, and that's where he really made a name for himself, creating the most advanced shogi AI of that time. Morita founded his own developer studio for his shogi games, Random House. Not that Random House. And his games wound up pushing technology harder than you'd expect. For example, Morita Shogi on the Famicom is the first cartridge game with a built-in battery. But Random House didn't only make shogi games, they had a pretty diverse lineup of games that were mostly released on Japanese computers. Which finally brings me back to Just Breed. Just Breed was going to be Random House's magnum opus. Besides Morita himself doing the coding, they had the story by professional writer Sato Katsuyuki, music by Tanaka Kohei, who composed for a lot of popular animated shows, including the original theme song for Dragon Ball, and character designs by comic artist Takada Yuzo, who at that time was best known for 3x3 Eyes. They were promoting the game in Playboy of all magazines. And naturally, with all of this talent and work behind it, Just Breed was a massive bomb. It's late 1992 and it's a Famicom game. And on top of that, a few days before its release, Final Fantasy V was released. And if people weren't playing Final Fantasy V, then they were playing Dragon Quest V, which preceded Just Breed's release by a couple of months. Just Breed came out at the worst possible time, in the worst possible place. While I couldn't find anyone saying anything definitive, it also looks like this killed Random House's efforts to do anything other than shogi. Before Just Breed, they had a pretty wide variety of games. After Just Breed, it was effectively all shogi. But here's the thing. Just Breed is actually pretty good. Okay, it's hard for me to judge RPGs, but I was really liking what I was seeing, and it has a real cult following in Japan. The plot of the game involves sacred stones that once protected an ancient country, but were scattered after one stone was corrupted and the land was destroyed. The game opens in a village where one of those stones was hidden, and during a festival, the priestess who cares for the stone was abducted by monsters. She dropped the stone while she was being carried off, though, and as the dashing hero, you take up the stone and set off to rescue her. The first thing you need to know about Just Breed is that it's not an RPG along the lines of Dragon Quest. Oh sure, it looks like it while you're walking around town, and hit A to bring up a menu so that you can talk to people, cast spells, check out your inventory. But the moment you step out of town, you'll find out what it's really modeled on. Fire Emblem. Okay, not quite. But anytime you're in the wilderness, you have a gigantic open map between you and all possible destinations. There are monsters wandering it, and you control each person on your team individually. Over the course of the game, you'll accumulate 6 teams of 6 characters each. So you'll have a pretty big army following you around. And everyone in an army gains experience at the same rate. Everyone gets experience when a monster's defeated, not just the person who defeated it. Naturally, during combat, you move all of your units, and then all of the enemy units move. The team leader always has to move first before any other units in that team move. So as I'm starting out here, I have to move the hero, then everyone else can go. The hero starts out with a decent healing spell. It has more than enough power to recover any of your characters to full until they've leveled up several times. Spells are learned when you level up, so the spellcasting characters you recruit will always have some ability. There is a small bug in the game that characters who you recruit have a default level, and if you've leveled past them by grinding, then they'll miss out on spells that they'd gain after that default level until they level up one time. You can grind if you need to, and you probably will have to. Just go in and out of town as you clear out enemies. If you do clear out all of the monsters on the map, then you can wander freely in that section. At least until you enter a location and then come back out again to find fresh monsters there. If any of your team happen to get cut down, then you'll have to go to the doctor's office in town to revive them. But it's not that expensive to do that. It was 10 gold for me to revive someone, and that's how much you get for defeating one of the stronger monsters. Also, you can go to inns to recover your health and magic, plus save your game to one of Just Breed's 2 save slots. And eventually you'll be able to buy new weapons and armor at towns. There's actually a bit more variety in weapons than you might realize. Bows, for example, will shoot 2 or 3 squares, but only in straight lines, while some handheld weapons can reach 2 squares away. Offensive magic has similar limitations to bows. You can only shoot those in straight lines. But magic that affects your group can be cast on any member of your group regardless of where they are, so you can always heal someone. I wasn't able to make a lot of progress in Just Breed during the hour I was playing. The introduction is really long, but I was able to make it out to a farm where I recruited a wizard that wasn't quite as powerful as that guy, and I eventually made it over to the second town, though I think I really needed to grind a few more levels out before I tried to go any further. Like I mentioned, Just Breed has a pretty good reputation in Japan, though not a lot of people have played it. And my own take is that it's a pretty intriguing game. I actually like the tactical combat better than the 8-bit Fire Emblem games. It's a lot easier to manage and a lot less punishing. Just Breed is a pretty cool game, and it's a shame it couldn't find its audience back in 1992.